Mr. Dilip Rajan and Mr. Akhilesh Mahurkar, who is here on the behalf of Vicky. To begin with the session, first of all, a few words. Agriculture was the first occupation of man, and it sorry for this glitches. Agriculture was the first occupation of man, and as it embraces the whole earth, it is the foundation of all industries. I'm happy to welcome Mr. Dilip Rajan, Chief Strategy Officer, East West Seed Global. Sir has received his Master of Business Administration at the Queen University in Canada. Sir is an accomplished international executive with 25 plus years of experience, laced with a track record of business restructuring, turnaround, and above market growth. Sir is passionate and is a fully engaged professional whose experience has been owned by working and being in different countries, and specifically India, US, Canada, Singapore, UAE, Bahrain, and Thailand. Sir is known for his adaptability, creativity in solving business problems. He has led businesses and PL responsibility across diverse markets. Sir focuses on management of large-scale changes, innovation management, and business transformation initiatives with sustainable outcomes. We welcome you, sir. Now I shall be welcoming thank you, sir. And I welcome once again Mr. Akhilesh Mahurkar, who is present on behalf of Picky. Now I'd like to introduce the faculties who are present here. Dr. Ranjit Kumar, Head, Agribusiness Management, Dr. K.H. Rao, Principal Scientist, Placement Coordinator, Dr. B. Ganesh Kumar, Placement Coordinator, Dr. Shivramani N., Member Placement Committee. I welcome you also. Now I invite Ms. Amrit Kaur for the NAM presentation.
Good evening, everyone. ICAR NAM. National Academy of Agricultural Research Management offers postgraduate diploma in agribusiness management, which is a 2 years fully residential program. The eligibility criteria to get the admission in PGDM Abm is a 4-year degree from any state agricultural university or ICAR recognized institutions. The selection procedure is very stringent, in which the candidates have to appear for CAT or CMAT, and on the basis of the cutoff marks, candidates are shortlisted for Prezi writing, group discussion, followed by personal interview. Academic records and work experience are also taken into consideration. Sir, I'm happy to tell you that PGDM Abm at NARM has completed 11 years of its journey. These are the 5 pillars at PGDM Abm. We offer completely industry-oriented courses like Agribusiness Foundation, Analytical Skills, Agribusiness Strategy, Commodity Trading and Future Markets, GIS for Agribusiness, Enterprise Resource Management. Next is summer internships, in which students will be associated with industries for 8 weeks to have hands-on learning experience in the real business world. Business boot camps, which is a startup engagement course and curriculum in which students will be associated with startups, and by the end of the trimester, they have to frame a case study about the startup and provide solutions. Winter internships. In these, students are closely associated with companies for 12 weeks to gain practical experience in the field. So it's a great industry-oriented learning. Last but not the least is the LIFE project, which is one of the significant elements of PGDM Abm, in which we will be associated with startups or companies working hand in hand dealing with real-time problems. Eruditions. These are a series of guest lectures by the experienced industry professionals. These are the companies which visited the campus in 2019, like TAFE, Grant Thornton, Ottawa AgriScience, Microsafe, to name a few. Coming to the batch profile of PGDM Abm 2019 to 21, there are 21 girls and 27 boys, hailing from 13 states, 24 universities, 13 streams, among which 10% of them carry work experience. Students are from BSc Agriculture, BSc Horticulture, BTech Agricultural Engineering, BSc Agricultural Marketing and Cooperation, MSc Agriculture, to name a few. Coming to the batch profile of PGDM Abm 2020 to 22, to which I belong to, we are 23 girls and 31 boys, hailing from 13 states, 27 universities, 11 streams, among which 16% of them carry work experience. Students are from BSc Agriculture, BSc Agricultural Marketing and Cooperation, BTech Food Technology, BSc Horticulture, MSc Agriculture, MTech Agricultural Engineering, to name a few. Sankalp is a unique national bee fest organized by PGDM ABM students in association with Non-PG Alumni Association, which amalgamates agrarian academia, budding management graduates all across the nation, and entrepreneurial millennials in one platform. Sir, I'm happy to tell you that we had successfully organized Sankalp 2020 with the vision of collaborate, compete, connect on a virtual platform amidst the pandemic situation, which witnessed 5,000 plus registration from 420 plus institutes and 150 plus participants. The flagship events of Sankalp 2020 were Adhishtata, the best manager event, Samadhan, the case study competition, Advitiya, the business plan competition. Our esteemed sponsors were Samruddhi Financial Intermediation and Services Private Limited, Rallis India Limited, AIDEA, SAFE Foundation, and National Academy of Agricultural Sciences, Hyderabad. I am proud to tell you that beside academics, our students are active in co-curricular activities as well. Students of PGDM ABM secured first position in Paramarsh 2019 held at IIM Raipur, first position in event Brainathon Krishi Manthan held at IIM Ahmedabad, first position in event Kritya at eConclave organized by SIIB Pune 2020, second position in event Pitches 2.0 Krishi Manthan held at IIM Ahmedabad, second position at EIMA AgriMac India 2019 organized by FICCI held at IIRI New Delhi, second position in Agri-Dot held at IIM Lucknow Bee Fest. PGDM ABM believes in holistic development of students, for which we have 6 clubs: Tarang, the Entrepreneurship Club; Manthan, the Agribusiness Forum; Sanskriti, Event Management and Cultural Club; Darpan, the Quizzing Club; Krida, Sports and Fitness Club; Prakriti, the club that cares for nature. These are our prestigious recruiters from agri-input sector, consultancy, commodity, banking and microfinance, FMCG and retail, life sciences, development, agri-value chain and financing. On behalf of whole PGDM ABM at ICR NAM, I would like to invite you, sir, to join our journey towards professional excellence. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Amrita.
Thank you, Ms. Amrit Kaur. Now I would like to invite Dr. Dilip Rajan to come to present his insights for the session. We welcome you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Shivangi, and thank you, Amrit. I think you should first. I'm not a physician or a doctor, so I think I'm across. Or you introduced all of your professors, so I'm fortunate.
Yeah, we'll do it.
And I also glad that you guys have invited me. So can I go ahead? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir. You're
Okay.
clearly audible, sir.
Excellent, excellent. So good afternoon or namaste. My name is Dilip Rajan. I represent East-West Seed. Very fortunate for you guys giving me this opportunity. I liked what you guys posted, right? I think it was Winston Churchill, and you guys were talking about pessimist versus optimist, and I think I am an incorrigible optimist. So thank you. I didn't want to miss this opportunity, so thank you for having me here. And to all the Narmians, it's an honor to be able to talk to you guys. My presentation today will kind of be in 3 sections. I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about our company, East-West Seed, and then subsequently, really talk about my understanding of the agri industry, and lastly, make a pitch on how we can unlock the agri potential through vegetables. So I do see that our company is not listed in some of the input companies that we have hired. So hopefully after this conversation, that can change. So if you can go to the full screen, please, very helpful. Is that the best, or can we go? Yeah, thank you. So I want to start with the message from our founder, and I think that kind of really anchors how we see ourselves. And this is from Dr. Simon Groot, who's not only our chairman and founder, but also the World Food Prize laureate in 2019. And I think it really goes to the core of his belief system that a good seed can truly change the lives of millions. And I think a testament to his belief is how he was honored with the World Food Prize, in 2019. When you go back to our core slide, which is the next slide here, it really boils down to three things: serving farmers, learning and innovation, and passionate teams. And I think this is kind of what has stood the test of time. We've been here for over 35 years, and our core values really haven't changed much. And for us, the most important of even these three is the ability to actually serve farmers. And if I go as far as saying serving smallholder farmers, which is predominantly who we operate or where we operate across the world. So when you look at East-West across the globe, which is my next slide, you can see that our footprint is across 60 countries. We distribute to around 60 countries, but where we really have what we call as our subsidiaries is predominantly in the Asia Pacific region. And that's kind of dictated by the fact that we are a tropical vegetable seed company, and that's kind of where we literally operate. Every other seed company, we try to serve our farmers. So we estimate over 20 million farmers have benefited from East-West. We have a pretty good footprint of R&D across the world, about 14 R&D setups that we have. So science-based company. We are a relatively small company, I would say, 5,000 employees. And as many of you would say, we're not, seed companies are not known to be traditionally very savvy. So our HR people are very happy. We got big onto social media even before COVID. And you can see that, we were awarded the best newcomer by LinkedIn. But something that I thought was very impressive when she introduced was 23 of the 31 current batch are women. So that's fantastic. You can see that we are also aiming to do it. 1 out of 3 EWS employees across our company are women. So we'd like to be a women-friendly company. And we are here, we operate here. Our headquarters also is in Asia Pacific because we wanted to stay closer to our marketplace. If I were to go to the next slide to really bring it down to in India, we've been in India since 2003. We've got over 35 years of experience, predominantly what we called as market-based breeding. So we're very close to the markets. Even in India, we have 8 R&D stations across 6 states, kind of trying to map the agroclimatic zones that we have in this country. We try and serve close to 5 million farmers. A big difference of our company is knowledge transfer. You will see me speak about it again. But essentially, we believe that for farmers, there are 2 things that's really required, right? One is high quality seeds and the knowledge, right? The ability to really use modern agronomic practices to kind of extract the value of the hybrid seeds. We have a pretty good footprint in India, and India also is quickly becoming our seed hub. So we not only produce seeds in India for India, we're also contracting farmers to produce for exports as well. Many of you may or may not know, but we are known in India predominantly for the cucurbits, so bitter gourd, ridge gourd. We have pretty good market positions in our country, but we actually give around 32 crops is what we sell in India. But sheer size of our country, we have about 173 varieties that we offer to cater to the needs of our smallholder farmers. If this is about India, very quickly, I want to touch on my next slide on the recognition that our company has received. We're particularly proud of the World Food Prize laureate being our founder, Dr. Simon Groot, and I mentioned about it. He was the 49th recipient of this prize since it started in 1987. But also Fortune magazine rolled out in 2020, it's changed the world list. Essentially, they were looking at which companies were doing well by doing good. We're proud to have listed 28 of the 53. And as I had said, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has what we call as the Access to Seed Index. And East-West was listed in the first time in 2016. And in 2019, we were again ranked #1 in the world, predominantly, really driving back that it's not only about, the profit, but also the purpose of actually serving smallholder farmers. So we're very excited for this recognition, and you can assume this to be my pitch for why each one of you should consider our company as a possible choice for you to work after you graduate. Now, I'm going to segue into the next section, which is really the market overview. Many of you are aware of this, but I'll hit on a couple of high notes on why I believe that vegetable market and the agriculture sector, as was initially alluded, one of the earliest professions, and how it continues to drive not only growth but also opportunities for all of us. So if I were to look at the key drivers of global vegetable market, it really boils down to a few. The population continues to grow. There is an emerging population. I think at some point we're saying 10 billion people will need to be fed by 2050. So the market need is there. Innovation is going to be a huge part of how this sector will continue to grow. In certain crops, in certain markets across the world, we continue to see hybridization still in the much lower. It continues to grow as technology improves, not only on the seeds, but also in the integrated crop management and the agronomic practices that's required. You will also see that COVID accelerated this digital adoption, and you'll see a lot of funding coming in now to the ag tech space. And clearly, there is vertical integration in the food, right? So pre-pandemic also certain changes were happening. It just got accelerated. You're seeing the advent of e-commerce, not only in the typical consumer space, but also in the inputs. And we've seen a lot of farmers are interested with COVID lockdown. How do they get access? And the e-commerce are becoming important. There are barriers to growth. As we can see, the urbanization means lack of labor, the ability to do it. How do you make farming sustainable? You've all heard about climate impact, the ability to actually conserve water, and the ability to use to extract much more with less. And obviously with our markets, we're talking about, does the infrastructure go in tandem with the growth of this sector? If you were to actually look at vegetables, I call this truly a global crop. If you look at the seed value at the grower level, it's about $6 billion. In India, it's expected to double in the next 5 years. And you look at the fresh produce that goes at the grower level, it goes up to about 120. And you see that the consumer level is almost 10x what is available at the seed. But it's really a fragmented market, and it's fragmented because of different consumer needs, and the downstream really affects how the vegetables continue to grow. The value chains are complex, and I'll explain that in a minute. But it's important to know that as the value chain continues to evolve, an ecosystem is being developed to kind of nurture vegetables. India, we have a lot of crops that are grown globally, about 50 vegetable species. And in terms of acreage, Asia Pacific, where we live and work, contributes to 50% of the acreage. Now, in my next slide, I talk about the dynamics. Really, this is what is influencing the downstream aspect of vegetables, right? There is consolidation, there is vertical integration, which means the value chain is getting shorter. You're seeing increasing discounters of fruits and vegetables. You're seeing as urbanization happens, the growth of the food service and the fresh cut and preserved. So you're seeing different value options being offered to end consumer. And concurrently, you're seeing sustainability being an important aspect and quality standards becoming a differentiator in what would have otherwise been called as a commoditized market. And I explained about e-commerce, but I have just taken on a new role. In my next slide, I'll try and address the difference between developed and emerging markets. If you were to look at it broadly, you can see that while the global food demand is driven by the dietary transition, in the case of developed markets, it's relatively stable. There's a slight increase in the per capita consumption, but the value increase is shifting from processed to fresh. Whereas in markets where we operate, the increase is per capita consumption. Even today, while the notion is that India is relatively, more Indians are vegetarians, our consumption of vegetables falls much shorter than the recommended dietary guidelines for our market. So you see that as population grows, as the vegetable consumption grows, the overall market will continue to move and propel forward. So with that, I'd like to go to my next slide, which is really the last section, why vegetables? Obviously, take it with a grain of salt because I represent a vegetable seed company, but I'll lay out some facts, I'll lay out some data points that will hopefully resonate with all of you. Now, what better way for me to make the pitch that the United Nations actually has signaled that this year, 2021, is the International Year of Fruits and Vegetables. So clearly, you can see that it's not just a presentation, but this is how the world is seeing. But also, as I indicated earlier, even pre-COVID, the food habits were changing. It just got much more pronounced. And what we're seeing, as you and I, both as consumers as well, is that we are signaling that our eating habits will change permanently. Would we prefer to eat more at home? Would we eat more vegetables? Or would we grow our own crops? And I think this itself is another additional reason that consumers are saying, I want to be healthy. So we're moving from, like a consumer-driven agriculture for vegetables. Now, I want to anchor this point and why, who do we serve? And what are their challenges? And I think the question really here is, why does East West harp or continue to harp on smallholder farmers? And I think it's basic, right? It is the smallholder farmers are responsible for 85%, disproportionate amount of food. The burden of that is reliant on our smallholder farmers. And the context is even more pronounced in India because that same number resonates with our country. By 2050, as I said, the world would need an additional 730 million tons of fruits and vegetables. So when you look at the reason for us to exist and why we focus on this dual pathway of providing high quality seeds, but also providing them knowledge transfer, is when you see the challenges our smallholder farmers face, whether it's in India or any other market, it has a couple of features, right? Clearly, there's low productivity or income for our farmers that could be driven by lack of access, not only to high quality inputs, but also to the markets. The value chain is not functioning to benefit our farmers. There's little knowledge on better farming practices, and they have to extract more value with the small land holdings that they have. And it goes without saying, the efficiencies of the markets from a financial credit policy is not something that is easily available and accessible to our smallholder farmers. So we see that there is an unmet need in the market that companies such as ours are trying to fill the gap and provide them with some additional support. Now, going back to my fundamental pitch of why vegetables offers a better economic choice, when you look at it from a consumer standpoint, and if you recall my comment that we don't eat adequately in terms of our RDA requirements, from a nutrition standpoint, beyond the cereals, you can see that vegetables and fruits are a really good source of micronutrients, particularly in the post-COVID or in the pandemic world. People are becoming more health conscious, and vegetables offers that additional flip to our immunoboosters, as you would call it. But the other thing which is important is for a farmer who's got small land holding, the ability to get more from less is what makes vegetables a better economic choice. For example, a farmer can produce vegetables year round, which is good. So a shorter cycle to grow crops. And it is also, you can harvest it quickly and you can grow multiple crops. So in other words, the farmer can actually diversify their economy, their income. And I always often quote this example. If you look at it, 1,000 square meters of land, assuming people, some of our farmers have a little more than that. If he or she were to plant bitter gourd, will give the farmer the same income as 1 hectare planted to rice. Now, I'm not even going to rice, sugarcane being water guzzling crops. So if you see, it's a much better way for farmers to extract more value from the limited land that they have. India would require about approximately a 35% increase in vegetable production over the next 5 years. So in other words, we've got nowhere to go but up. I end my slide with the last 2 slides here, and that is agriculture was, and I'm obviously stating the obvious statement here, which was agriculture was and it still is India's largest enterprise. I think we are on a path where in the past we were talking about subsistence farming. We're trying to do, more of distress. We're now getting to a place where we're talking about surplus. We're talking about India can produce. India is the second largest producer. How can we increase our exports? But the path to sustainable agriculture and food security is and will remain in the hands of educated youth such as yourselves. And that's why I never leave this opportunity to talk to young folks such as yourselves, because if we were to extract our demographic dividend, it has to be with folks such as yourself that will step up and say, I want to see agriculture as an intellectually satisfying and an economically gratifying profession. Our company and others are now seeking specialized talents, right? A combination of agriculture, engineering, and marketing is kind of the skill set that we're looking at. And you can, talk to specialists, you can talk to your professors, they will tell you that the jobs continues to evolve, right? There are, such as I've seen recently, an ad for a drone pilot for crop monitoring. We talk about energy efficiency, so you need engineers who can help companies and governments to actually say better efficient consumption. You're now suddenly talking about companies such as ourselves hiring digital and e-commerce experts to help us say, how do we actually open up this direct channel? And the list goes on and on. And I'm saying these are new jobs beyond what we've always been known to, right? You talk about breeders, you talk about plant pathologists. Now we're talking about other value, jobs that are being raised. So I hope you will recognize that there is, a role for many of you if you decide to pursue a career in agriculture. Going to my last slide, I think I mentioned briefly that COVID has accelerated this technology race. And I think digitization is here to stay, both a combination of big data, science, artificial intelligence. We talk about cloud connected technology. I think we are on a kind of an inflection point where agriculture can no longer be left behind. It needs to embrace technology if we have to feed the millions, if not billions of people in the coming years. Having said that, it must include conservation agriculture. Your professors will teach you connected agriculture, advanced agronomics, and consumer-driven demands. Now, obviously, I've made a pitch for East-West, but I also thought in my next slide to say there are many companies operating in India, both a combination of multinationals and very strong Indian companies as well. So we have a very mature seed industry. I've put a list of the companies here. Really, some of them are pure play vegetable companies or seed companies. Some are conglomerates that do a whole host of input. And there are a few that are healthcare companies, which also have an arm for agriculture. So here are some companies that you should look at. And I want to end with this statement, and that is, when vegetables rise, people thrive. And I think all that I've attempted to do today is that it's a triple win, right? So when a farmer grows vegetables, obviously he makes more money. The traders also benefit from that. But as consumers, we also benefit if we eat better vegetables. And obviously with what's happening with our economy, you've seen that agriculture continues to remain that one silver lining in our GDP. So we hope that as more people eat more vegetables, I think everybody would thrive. So with that, I end my talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks, Shivangi.
Now the platform is open for question and answers. And sir, we have already received a few questions, a few inquiries based on the whole topic.
Shall I ask?
Sir, may I continue?
Please go ahead.
Hello.
Go ahead, sir.
Yes,
I can hear you.
Please.
Shivangi, I can hear you, right?
Yes, sir. Actually, sir, some other gentleman, he wanted to ask you something. That's why I just stopped for a minute. Sir, may I ask, sir? I'll continue, sir.
Go ahead.
85% of Indian farmers are small and marginal, and they majorly follow traditional farming rather than modern practices. The productivity of vegetables is more through modern practice compared to traditional, and also farmers prefer to grow cereals rather than vegetables. So, as a company, what are the strategies you are following to bring farmers under modern practices and unlock the agri potential?
Yeah. So Shubhang, I think I kind of addressed it briefly. So it starts with, first of all, ensuring that we are able to breed and provide them high quality inputs. But just giving them inputs, we don't believe is enough, right? We also need to invest in what we call as knowledge transfer. And we have trained over 30,000 farmers, but it's still a drop in the bucket. We are aiming to train over 100,000 farmers in the coming years for India. So I think it needs to start with awareness. It needs to be able to do not just one company. We are doing our bit, but that's not enough. It should be more. More number of farmers are trained in modern agricultural practices. It only takes it forward. Also, the last part of it is as well is that it needs to make economic sense, right? What we have seen is the word of mouth. When a farmer, for example, decides to say, I want to grow a vegetable, you have to understand the amount of risk that a farmer puts. Unlike us, when we are investing or we always hedge our bets, but a farmer puts all of his bets on his land to extract value. So when they see value, when they see results coming from high quality products, but also the ability to get produce that gets them a premium price. So we are doing our bit, but I think we will never stop continuing to serve farmers. So it comes back with two parts, right? Give them the right product and educate them how to grow. Just giving them one or the other will not achieve the desired outcome.
Thank you, sir. Sir, there is a question once again. It is about India is second largest producer of vegetables with 15% global production, but there is a huge gap between production and consumption of vegetables in India due to the perishable nature of vegetables. So how can we bridge this gap?
Yeah, so I think it's true that we are the second largest producer. If you recall one of my comments, so the post-harvest loss is estimated roughly anywhere between 30 to 40%. So in our country, as in many other emerging markets, that is the challenge that has to be fixed. I really think an ecosystem has to be designed to ensure that the farm to fork, if you remember, or if you recall, a lot of the products require processing, right? You just don't eat a rice, you don't eat a wheat, it gets processed at the end product that you get. But when you look at fruits and vegetables to the broadest extent, this is true farm to fork. So how quickly can we get the produce from the farmer's fields to our table is the challenge. And I think that is something that has to be fixed beyond us as an input company. I think more players will need to involve. The government will need to get involved from a cold storage to downstream infrastructure to see how we can shorten the time it takes from the field to the table. And I think a lot of you, as you're studying and graduating, these are real problems that require solutions. So as you start looking at it and trying to find how do I shorten the time, how do I expand the so-called shelf life of a product so the farmer can actually either through cold storage or through genetics, how do you expand the shelf life of the product so when it actually comes, you're reducing the wastage and you're ensuring that the farmer gets more value for his product.
Thank you, sir. The other question is, sir, we are not getting enough price in the market because of low quality of vegetables that are being produced. By improving the quality, we could be able to explore both domestic and international market. So what are all the ways we can improve the quality in vegetable production so our farmers will be able to increase their income?
Yeah. Personally, I think it starts with choosing the right product, right? So the value chain integration has to happen. We also have to have the current regulatory framework that allows our farmers to export. And I think that's happening as we speak. Still work in progress. But I think it starts off with post-harvest, what we call as technologies, the grading, the ability to really meet the standards that importing countries require. And to make sure that the produce that the farmer is doing is consumer driven, right? So it's market driven, as in if there's a demand, for example, sweet corn, or if there's a demand for export of, say, a particular hot pepper, to really make sure that we are demand driven kind of production. And obviously, post harvest technologies are required. Again, as I said, we are in the starting point of the food production in terms of a seed company, but there is much more to do post-harvest that also requires expertise and knowledge to extract more value.
Okay, sir. So there is another question. The current status of the industry, which focuses mostly on PTO and the demand forecasting related to it, and the gap which happens CRM side leading to fluctuations in price, is a common problem. How can crop diversification prove an alternative to this situation?
Can you tell me what is PTO? What does the acronym stand for?
Sir, Project Takeoff.
Project Takeoff. Oh, wow. See, it's been many years since I graduated. I don't know those acronyms. I think I've kind of answered that part of that question, right? So demand side fluctuation is obviously going to happen, but to the extent possible, a farmer with regards to a particular crop that we talk about, I'll take an example of tomatoes, right? So tomatoes have this boom bust cycle. So if the benefit of growing vegetables is the farmer can actually do 3 to 4 crops in a year, shorter cycles. So if he continues to go beyond monocropping, I think he could, mitigate or manage his risk. But these are complex problems, and it's just not going to happen with CRM alone. It has to be linked to what's happening in the market, which is the product that actually can extract more value. And the farmer, like any one of us, will have to time his produce to ensure that he's able to get the best price depending upon the demand in the market.
Okay, sir. So the other question is, what is the scope of hydroponics and vertical farming in vegetables in India? Will it help the vegetable sector to grow more?
I think the answer to that question is it's still in its nascent stage. India, obviously in many other parts of the world, it's migrated towards more protected cultivation. We are, broadly speaking, we are seeing that hydroponics, perhaps, you talked about vertical farming. I think it will happen, but I see that as future technologies. I see that coming up in certain parts. I still think we need to go back to the basics in India in making sure that the farmer has everything he needs to make sure that he can produce vegetables in open cultivation. Yeah, protected cultivation will happen in a few years. We'll all be ready when it happens. But right now is to be able to focus on, more than hydroponics. Yeah, it's great. I love it. I'm also hoping to see if I can start my own farm in hydroponics. But the reality is we got to make sure we align with what our smallholder farmers need today.
So there is another question. East West Seeds was ranked 28 out of 53 in Fortune Annual Change in the World list for their profit-making strategy and operations to improve the human conditions. So what is the strategy of East West Seeds different from other seed companies that makes it unique?
Okay, so I recently made the transition from pharma. So I'm a 25, 26-year-old veteran in the pharma company, right? So when I moved to East West, what struck me was, you often hear people talk about purpose. We are a purpose-driven company. So very few people are able to actually walk the walk, right? Everybody talks, we do this, we do CSR. So when I met up with Dr. Groot during my onboarding, I was pretty impressed that here was a company that had a very simple diktat, right? If a farmer makes more money, then we can make more money. It was not the other way around. And the second part of it is it's kind of in our DNA is to serve farmers. So I find that those two aspects. So for example, our commitment is to contribute roughly 1.25 to 1.3% of our revenue in what we call as knowledge transfer. So we train farmers in markets where they're still not even thinking about growing vegetables. So really going to the remote parts of the world and training farmers to say, hey, look, if you grow vegetables, you can actually migrate towards better income and things. So I think what separates us is three things: hyper focus on the smallholder farmer, market-based breeding, not trying to get a crop that works in Europe and say, well, we'll bring it to India, really breeding here for Indian market. And the third thing that separates us are our people. I think they're very passionate. I've been in this company for about 3 years. And what strikes me again is the consistent passion about serving farmers. I think that's what binds us and that's what keeps us together. So I would say this is what we do. I don't know if we are very different from other companies, but we do this well. We're proud we do this well.
Yes, sir. Sir, as you said, agriculture, engineering, and marketing, these three represent three important streams. And do you think a holistic approach to these different streams is what is required from the education of the future agriculturist and the various agriculture college around the country?
You have to repeat that question. Or I may have to ask
Sir,
some help from your professors to help me with that. Tell me.
So the question is, as you have said that agriculture, engineering, and marketing, these three represents three different and important streams. So do you think a holistic approach to these three different streams will help create new agriculturists in the future? And what can they expect from these three streams?
Yeah, no, I don't want you to take away that there were only the three streams. I gave that as an example, right? So
Okay, sir.
I think it is important to note that when you look at the entire ecosystem, we are but an input company, right? We provide seeds. Or we talked about post-harvest. We're talking about sensor technologies. We're talking about drones. So as you're graduating and doing your master's, is to see what is your passion, right? So some people may be pure science. I want to go into breeding because that's what gets me going. CRISPR-Cas. I want to do molecular assisted breeding, and this is what I like. Some of you may say, I want to pursue pure science and do biotechnology or try and do something with regards to core pathology. It says this is what interests me. But I'm also saying, as this industry is maturing, there are opportunities to look at, marketing, for example. So if you look at the product managers that we have on our team, they all have the foundation of BSc Agriculture. So they understand the agriculture. Then they say, okay, I need to now also think about how do we market seeds to farmers. We talk about e-commerce. So this is very new. So there are people, there's no ready-made talent to say, well, if you do one course in e-commerce, you can get a job in e-commerce. But I think this is the aptitude that's required is get your foundation of agriculture and science and start talking about business. Because I think one of the other message here is how do we move from calling it agriculture to agri-business? Because at the end of the day, we talk about the economics. So I would say as young students, look at this ecosystem, try to figure out what problem that you are best suited to solve and pursue that.
Sir, vegetable seeds are usually considered bit costly. So what kind of interventions does East West does to increase the sales, even though how it stands different from other companies?
So I would say that statement in itself is it's costly, it's a relative term, right? I think we talk about the return for the farmer. So the high quality, on average, it takes between 6 to 8 years for breeding to get from a concept to providing a seed. Also, a farmer makes a conscious decision. So roughly when you see the cost of a hybrid seed, whether it's from our company or any company, I'm talking specifically for vegetables, ranges between the 5 to 7% total cost of production. He's got labor, he's got pesticides, he's got everything else that he needs to do to get the end produce. So when you see it ranges anywhere, some crops could be up to 10%, but that investment dictates his entire output. So if he chooses the wrong seed, will affect. So I think our goal is to encourage more farmers to use high quality seeds. And the fact that I didn't pitch just East West, but I put all seed companies on my slide is to say that in many ways, all of our colleagues are trying hard to make sure that we provide the farmer the best available choice. And a farmer can make a mistake only once. You don't give him a good product, he's not coming back to you like any one of us. So I think that is our goal, to encourage the farmer to extract more value by choosing the right seed. Because if he makes a wrong choice on the seed, then he ends up paying pretty much the same amount of money for production, and he gets a much lesser yield.
Sir, moving on to the next question.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Sorry, sir.
Go ahead.
Okay, sir. Indian agriculture production pattern is expecting a turn towards low volume, high value crop, but Indian farmers are characterized by low land holding size, and it makes them go for traditional monocropping. High volume, low value practice. Is this instance how to change the how to change the behavior of farmers from age-old practices to modern practice? Is there any strategies being followed at the company? So
Yeah.
this is a question from a YouTube viewer.
Yeah, no, I think we've addressed that in several parts. It really comes back to awareness, the ability to make that economic choice, and some of them are doing it. And I think there's enough examples to prove that they're not following what their forefathers are doing. And it is a factor, multifactorial, right? Water scarcity, the ability to extract more money out of a small piece of land. So they are going to make these choices, right? And it's going to be a slow process. We're trying to accelerate that, but it comes back to the on the ground, the ability to convince the farmer why he or she will have to make the switch in order to make to double their income. So it starts with that.
Okay, sir. Sir, there is another question by one of our faculties, Mr. M.B. Dastagiri, sir. He is principal scientist at ICR NAR. His question is: international companies, multinational companies, transnational companies, global companies are opening up in agriculture. Is it a boon or a curse for developing countries, particularly India, China, and Africa?
I would say it is a boon. I would say as long as India protects its interests, protects our farmer rights, and does what is right by the farmer, I think giving farmers a choice, giving farmers the ability to pick the best product makes all the more sense, while ensuring that the right safeguards are in place to ensure that our biodiversity continues to remain with us.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You run out of
Now
questions.
there is another question.
I said, have you run out of questions?
Sir,
No questions.
so there is one more question, sir.
Okay.
So the question is, how do you see the breeding for consumer-oriented trades getting the attention of breeders?
I think that's very, very important, right? It's absolutely the key. And our breeders know this, that it's ingrained into them. And we have seen time and time again that if you were to do market-based breeding, really focused on what the market needs, what the consumer wants, and we have a lot of focus groups. So one of the other things that we are actively investing is market insights, rather than, because it takes a long lead time to get the crop. I would say it is of paramount importance to get an outside-in perspective of what's happening in the market, but also to predict what's going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years, because by the time they can come out with a trait, they can come out with a benefit to the farmer, could take anywhere between 6 to 8 years. So the ability to forecast what will the market be is one important aspect. Obviously, the marketing folks will kind of distill those insights, but also to embrace and see newer technologies. A case in point is, for many, many years, we knew that getting a vaccine would take 10 years, 6 to 10 years. You've seen now that within 10 months, we've gotten a vaccine. So that's part of the gene editing. So also being on top of science, knowing what new technologies are allowed and what new technologies can help them solve problems, but also being externally focused and figuring out what the market is going to be versus what the market is going to separate a good breeder from a bad one.
Thank you so much, sir, for clearing all our doubts and queries which were being raised by the audience.
Thank you. Okay,
So, sir,
tell your professor, Rangi, at some point, you should invite East West to come and pitch. When you guys are graduating, we'd like to be part of your, your hiring process as well. So let us know. Tell your professors that East West should be on your radar screen.
Sir, as we are heading towards the ending of the session, closing of the session, I would like to speak a few more words, specifically the vote of thanks. The only source of knowledge is experience. With these words, I would like to thank you, sir, for the words of wisdom you have put forward. The way you have emphasized on the lines, a good seed can change the life of millions. The value chain that is created by the seed production in vegetables and the path to cash in these benefits. You have given us a very deep insight about how this industry works and how important it is for the farmers for the future of the nation and global. So we thank you, sir. We thank you very much for your time. And we thank Vicky also for providing us this platform. And we thank all the audience and our faculty, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Shivangi. Signing off.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Ma'am, now, ma'am, I would like to confirm whether this streaming has ended or...
Just a second, I'm getting it. I'm just getting it.
Okay, sir.
And Akhilesh, do I need to stay online? I believe so.
I think so. The Anandagar was seeing some professors just interact. Just a second, I'm just calling my colleague.
Please, sir, kindly stay in the meet.
Yeah, sure, no worries.